This is LBC. Message Matt Frei on WhatsApp now. 0345 60 60 973.
Now, I'm very happy to say that we've come to that part of the show where we talk to Simon Marks, and you might, looking at your clocks, think, my goodness, it's already getting up early enough at, 8:15 on a Saturday morning when he'd like to have a lie-in, and now it's 7:30. What are you doing to this man? It's so cruel. But I'm happy to say that Simon Marks is actually on this side of the great ocean. He is in London. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Matt. Would actually be 6:30.
6:30. I'm sorry, I got it wrong there.
Thank goodness I'm in the middle of 11s.
Well, indeed. And you've had, I trust, a very pleasant morning with a full English breakfast and all the other things that you enjoy being back in London. And I know you've been on air a lot, and I wish I could have taken part the other day with your foreign policy discussion with Lionel Barber and other great guests, but sadly I was otherwise occupied.
Anyway. You were missed. We'll drag you in another night.
I'd love to do that. Now, I'd always love that. But I now have you to myself, which is fantastic. So there's lots to talk about. I mean, the thing that really struck me is that the number of Republican former loyalists in the Senate and in the House who came out last week and said this Iran ceasefire deal is a load of, and I couldn't possibly mention the name now, but you must have heard the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting, Matt, because it is some still Trump loyalists and some former Trump loyalists that are engaged in this critique. I mean, if you look at the language that Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas used to criticize this memorandum of understanding, and he's, a pretty loyal, fervent supporter of President Trump. He's pretty much stood alongside him through thick and through thin. And there was Senator Cruz saying that the idea of giving billions of dollars to radical clerical lunatics who want to murder Americans is not a good idea. And he went on absolutely to fulminate over the possibility that in 60 days' time the Iranians may indeed start charging tolls or service fees. I see they're now talking about possible insurance fees for every tanker that sails through the Strait of Hormuz. They're only constrained from charging any fees for the next 60 days. That really sticks in his craw. He said the Ayatollah should not reap a single penny in benefit out of not just what has taken place over the last 100+ days, but after 47 years of intolerable, oppressive, brutal rule in Iran. And then you've got people that no longer have to pledge fealty to President Donald Trump, like Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who's been undone by the president. He was basically deselected on the president's instructions. The MAGA faithful turned against him last month in a Louisiana primary. He said Ronald Reagan must be spinning in his grave over this deal. And the reason why this matters, Matt, is because while the president has disregarded Congress in waging this war, paid no heed whatsoever to the War Powers Act, didn't get any congressional authorization for the deployment of forces, when he wants to lift sanctions against Iran, that has to be done with congressional assent. Congress is going to argue that any long-term deal that emerges, whether it's in 60 days' time or more likely 600 days' time, is going to have the status of an international treaty, and Congress has to approve international treaties. So Donald Trump, if he really is serious about trying to bring this to some kind of final conclusion, is going to need those Republicans on board, and at the moment they are furious.
And of course, as we discussed earlier with the former ambassador to the region, there's the Israeli component in all this as well. Every time they feel that Hezbollah threatens them, they feel free to fire back. And although there's a ceasefire in place, it keeps getting broken as soon as it's been signed. And then, of course, Tehran knows that they can drive a wedge between Israel and its biggest backer, the United States, to the extent that that's never happened before. I mean, again, in this particular game of three-dimensional chess, it's both the Israelis and the Americans that are losing out.
Yeah, well, I mean, Israel and Hezbollah, I mean, that's the Achilles heel of this deal. And the language that we have heard coming from the president while he was at the G7 in Evian about Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and the language that we've heard in the last 36 hours coming from Vice President J.D. Vance, not so much about Benjamin Netanyahu. He didn't name him, but he did name other figures in the Israeli cabinet's inner circle, is unprecedented. I mean, every single American president, as you know better than I do, successive American presidents always have found their moments of frustration with Prime Minister Netanyahu. But this is something new. Let's take a listen to what J.D. Vance had to say, again, within the last day and a half.
Anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. You've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
And number two there from Vice President J.D. Vance was to say to the Israelis, you can't keep killing every single time you want to advance your objectives. Well, from Israel's perspective, they argue, the Israeli government argues, that's exactly what they do need to carry on doing, because they argue that they are on the receiving end of Hezbollah attacks. But this not only runs the risk of undermining the deal, because it's likely to continue spinning out of certainly the US president's control, but it's also redolent of big changes in American public opinion. I mean, for the first time, we are seeing majorities of Americans who no longer say they support and back Israel. And for both the Republicans and for the Democrats, that is creating new political realities in America. Both President Trump under attack from the right, with people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and others saying that he's contracted out American foreign policy to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and Democrats on the left being criticized by furious grassroots supporters, not only for the way in which Joe Biden and Kamala Harris handled Gaza and failed to stand up, they argue, to Prime Minister Netanyahu, but in the 200-page autopsy of Kamala Harris's failed presidential campaign that went public a few weeks ago, the word Gaza doesn't even appear in it. I mean, they're still in denial, the Democrats, over the problem they've got formulating policy that's going to appeal to their own grassroots.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I just want to read you this Itamar Ben-Gvir post on X. Now, he's the Israeli security minister who was once kicked out of the IDF for being too extremist and racist. He writes this: for every tear of an Israeli mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers must weep. All of Lebanon must burn. With all due respect to the Americans, Israel must make it clear to the entire world that the blood of our sons and the security of our citizens are not forfeit. All of Lebanon must burn. Our supreme duty is to protect the citizens of Israel and the soldiers of the IDF, blah, 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 blah. And then it carries on. I told the Prime Minister, even in our private meetings, for every tear of an Israeli mother, 1,000 Lebanese mothers must weep. I mean, this is the kind of language that Netanyahu's had to pay lip service to, even if he doesn't like it, because they are the ones keeping him in power and in this coalition government. But it's also the kind of language that is really beginning to upset the White House.
Yes, very much so. And both the White House and the Israelis, of course, have their eyes on their respective electoral calendars. So we're now 4.5 months away from midterm elections in the United States. Democrats projecting confidence about the outcome of them. It was the relentless march towards Election Day that ultimately, I think, led Donald Trump to capitulate to Iran, because he simply couldn't allow Republican lawmakers, and Republican lawmakers wouldn't allow him to have them marching towards Election Day with the economy in the parlous condition into which he plunged it by going to war. But in Israel, of course, the Israeli Prime Minister's facing an election in October, and with a very, very uncertain outcome there, because he made all sorts of promises to the Israeli public that this was going to be the moment when the Iranian regime was toppled, and now he's having to come to terms with the fact that his American partner, he thought he'd finally found an American president who was going to do his bidding in Iran, and Donald Trump, of course, has blinked and left the Israeli Prime Minister to pick up the can with his domestic audience.
Just a couple of brief ones. I love this story. Giorgia Meloni, the extremely feisty, though diminutive Prime Minister of Italy, once Donald Trump's best friend, has fallen out with him in such a way that the Italian Foreign Minister has cancelled the trip to Washington. Just tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, it's spectacular. Well, Donald Trump at the end of G7 gave a telephone interview to an Italian television network and said that Giorgia Meloni in Evian had begged him to have a picture taken with her. And he said, I felt sorry for her. She was so desperate to have her picture taken with me. And Meloni heard this interview go out and went nuts and recorded her own video on social media saying, this is complete fabrication, and I don't understand why the President of the United States attacks his allies, like her, while reserving so much sympathy for our enemies around the world. So that relationship now shredded, even as Giorgia Meloni is facing, by the way, political challenges on the far right in Italy as well.
She is indeed. So she's got to show up that flank. But I love the way she then looks into the camera. You know, the angle is slightly low. Typical social media person says, I and we in Italy, we never beg. You know,
it's magnificent.
You mess with her at your peril. And just one quick line. The blue paint in the reflecting pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial already peeling off?
Well, the reflecting pool is catastrophic, as listeners to My American Week yesterday will have heard. It's got a proliferation of algae. The blue floor is peeling off and floating to the surface. And Donald Trump is now falsely blaming vandals for desecrating the renovation and refurbishment. $14 million of taxpayer money spent in the last few weeks refurbishing that reflecting pool in time for July the 4th, and the work, of course, it will not surprise you, was done the result of a no-contract bid, which was won by one of his Mar-a-Lago mates.
Indeed, that's what happens when you let your mates in Mar-a-Lago do all the painting of the pool. As Simon Marks, as ever, thank you very much, and hope to see you here on this side of the pond soon.